Okay, so welcome to the next session. You remember in the previous session we talked about the role of HRD in ethics. Now, in this session basically we are going to talk about role of HRD in CSR and sustainable development, and here we are going to see that how HRD can play an effective role in developing social responsibility of the people, okay, or social responsibility of the organizations, that is what we know as CSR, which leads to sustainable development, right. Part of that we have already discussed in the third session, and in this session we are moving further to explain corporate social responsibility. Okay. Now, if you look at this term, it has been widely talked about in the literature. You will find that a lot of people have been engaged in these kind of activities, okay, since long, right. So, but it is still a very problematic concept in the sense that it is very difficult to define exactly what does it mean in. Okay. So, you know that sometimes it is very difficult to see that why corporates are going to have and develop CSR policies, why they are trying to help. Maybe sometimes they are trying to help or going for these kind of activities to appease people, to satisfy local people also, this might happen, or even to satisfy the government norms and standards, okay, which does not reflect the true motive for developing CSR policies or going for CSR initiatives in the organization. Okay. Now, the fact is that whether you are being forced by external factors, and that is why you want to engage in certain activities related to communities, environment and other stakeholders as customers and suppliers, or internally you are so motivated or you are really interested to see that how as an organization does not become only a profit making body, but it is also equally responsible to the society, community in the environment, right. So, there are a number of factors. So, basically when we are talking about corporate social responsibility, the idea is that you are also responsible, you are going to act as a responsible citizen for the community, society, customers, others in the process, other stakeholders, and also about the organization, right. So, when we are going to talk about corporate social responsibility, we must keep these things in mind, right. So, moving further about corporate social responsibilities. Okay. Now, if you look at this responsibility, it could be in different areas. Okay. These it encompasses different kind of responsibilities for the people. Okay. It could be in the field of economic. Okay. So, helping people monetarily, it could be legal because there are certain legal frameworks, okay, or ethical frameworks. You think that it is your responsibility. Okay. As a moral citizen, it is your responsibility to are accountable. You are accountable for these kind of things, or you also engage sometimes in philanthropic activities. So, philanthropic activities should not come under CSR activities. Okay. It is something that you are doing for the good of the society, that is okay, but it is something that is what you call voluntary. Sometimes you are being forced by certain things, sometimes there is a fear of certain things, because of that you are going to engage in these kind of activities, or sometimes simply want to help somebody. Okay. So, all kind of charitable activities by the organization does not come under the purview of CSR, but sometimes these kind of responsibilities also considered and treated as CSR activities, right. So, when we are going to talk about CSR responsibility, basically they might come under any of these things. We have already talked about many of them. Now, we are moving further to say that what are the various theories basically which try to explain what CSR is. Okay. Now, there are two major theories in the literature that could find out. One is known as shareholders theory, the other one is stakeholders theory. Okay. Now, if you look at the first theory, that is shareholders theory. Okay. It means that an organization has a number of shareholders who have invested money in the organization, right. So, the organization should try to ensure through their productivity, revenue generation, these kind of things, to ensure profit maximization. It means most of the organizations have been set with the objective to maximize the profit, right. And they think it is the obligation on the part of the organization to generate wealth which can be distributed to the shareholders who have invested money in the organization, right. That is one thing. But if you look at the stakeholder theory, it says that it is not the shareholders who are the only stakeholders in the process. So, you are not going to work only for profit maximization, but there are other stakeholders also in the process, maybe the communities, societies, the environment, right. So, you also have a moral obligation to understand your responsibility for these stakeholders who belongs to society, maybe people, maybe community, maybe customers, even the environment. Okay. And that is why you remember we have been talking about the triple bottom line, where you are equally responsible apart from the economic factors, the people and environmental related factors. Okay. Because all these three have stakes in the business. So, you should not forget about this. Okay. So, it means that you should not only be concerned about profit maximization, that could be your primary responsibility, but at the same time you should also be equally responsible to other stakeholders in the process, right. Now, if you look at these theories in detail, okay, and try to find out different kind of activities that has happened by the Indian companies. So, I was trying to get data. So, you will find that yes, the kind of activities that they do in terms of their disclosures on sustainability reporting, stakeholder based CSR activities and sustainability, and how strong they are in governance. When you are talking about governance, means how transparent systems, policies, procedures you have to govern the organization. Okay. It means that how you work, that is more important, how different activities are governed, right. So, if you look at this, the data suggests that yes, most of the companies which have been listed, they are very strong when it comes to governance, okay, but they are very weak when it comes to reporting in terms of the disclosures, CSR activities and sustainability. Okay. It means that most of these companies which have been surveyed here, at least 1/3 of them, at least 33% companies fail to beat the halfway marks. It not, they have not even reached up to 50% when it comes to disclosure, CSR and sustainability reporting, right. Now, if you look at the rank that was provided in 2014 by an organization, okay, which was basically asked to survey the various companies, they could find these companies have been engaging in CSR activities and they are on the top of the list, starting with say Mahindra and Mahindra, Tata Power, Tata Steel, L&T, Tata Communications, Tata Motors, GAIL, BPCL, Infosys and Jubilant Life Sciences. Now, if you look at these companies, you will find that at least 4 Tata companies have been doing well when it comes to governance and CSR activities, right. So, this is the level of CSR activities in Indian organizations. Moving further, now, if you look at this matrix, basically this matrix have been created from a report which was published by IIM Udaipur in 2015, and this report talks about India's top companies for CSR and sustainability 2015, right. So, when I was going through this report, they have created a kind of matrix to explain the spending and the score, the CSR score of all the companies which have been surveyed. Now, if you look at spending, that is CSR spending, where how much they are spending on average, basically spending of their net profit on CSR activities. Okay. And if you look at the CSR score which moves from low to high, if you look at spending which is very low, okay, and also the CSR activities is very CSR score is also very low. So, they are known as starting out. It means that they have just initiated spending more on CSR activity, and they started spending some money of their profit on CSR activities, and the total number of companies in this is around 50 companies, right. Similarly, some companies who have started spending, but they are going to spend this or utilize that money in a very effective way so that they were able to create a better CSR score for them, and then 20 companies are there in the list. Similarly, you will find that though some companies have been spending lot of money, but if you look at their efficiency, their CSR score is very less. It means that they have not been able to effectively utilize that money, though they are spending money, but it has not been effectively utilized, and that is why you will find that the CSR score of these companies are very less, right. And at least 50 companies they have been doing very well. Okay. For example, if you look at their CSR spending, that is very good, and similarly you will also find that their CSR score is also relatively high. So, they are known as pace setters. It means these are the companies which could be used as benchmarks in terms of utilization of the money on different CSR activities, and also they have been very productive, or they have been doing well on that account when it comes to CSR activity. It means these CSR activities have really resulted in betterment of what you call the factors related to the society or the environment. It means that they have invested wisely, and that is why they are known as pace setters. Okay. So, using this CSR matrix, you can find out that almost 30 to 40% companies have only been very effective when it comes to spending on CSR activities. Moving further, now if you look at top CSR spending companies, okay, you will find this data and the data suggests that these are the top 15 companies, spending companies, and the source of this information is Ministry of Corporate Affairs, okay, because they publish this kind of data on CSR spending annually by all the companies, and here you will find that Reliance is on the top. Okay. Then you have National Thermal Power Corporation, ONGC, TCS, Southeastern Coalfields, ITC, Central Coalfields, National Mineral Development Corporation, Tata Steel, Infosys, Power Finance Corporation, HDFC, as ICICI, GAIL and Wipro. So, these are the companies which have been spending reasonably good amount, that is more than the limit the government has set of 2% of their profit. Okay. It is not exactly 2% of the profit that they are making, but at least they are spending substantial money, okay, on CSR activities. So, if you look at this list and if you see that many of them may be acting as pace setters, okay, or some of them may be smart utilizers, where they are going to spend their money wisely to get a good score. It means that the influence that the impact that they have been able to create on society and the environment is is appreciable, you can say, right. Now, after getting this data on CSR spending by the company, we move further to discuss some other things. See, if you look at this data, which suggests that what is the sector wise sustainability reporting. This basically suggests that when you are going to engage in CSR activities, it helps in sustainable development, right. Now, if you look at this data, this suggests that there are two major sectors which are spending lot of money on, or they are able to disclose what they are doing on the name of CSR and other activities. Okay. So, basically if you look at the sustainable reporting, this data suggests that oil and gas sector and IT sector is doing well. Okay. It means that they are able to go for more disclosures, okay, what they are doing in the name of CSR activities, right. Then you have metal and mining companies, okay, followed by what you call construction, banking and automobiles, right. What is surprising is the pharmaceuticals, basically they are spending very little money on these kind of activities, right, hardly 5 to 6%. Right. So, this is reporting is the corporate disclosures, where they are going to report about different kind of activities that they undertake in the name of CSR activities is very less. Okay. This contrast suggests us that those companies which are not doing well, they should also try to disclose more and more about their sustainability practices, what they are doing in the name of sustainability. Okay. Okay. So, maybe they are more concerned about profit maximization, they are not looking at the other agenda. So, if you look at the stakeholder theory, okay, you can see that some of the companies are trying to take care of all the stakeholders, okay. But while some companies are only interested in profit maximization and they are only looking at the agenda of this and to satisfy their shareholders. So, because they have invested money in the organization, they think that their objective is to make profit for the organization, because it is the basic or primary objective or responsibility for which the organizations have been set, right. We move further. Now, we see that what kind of disclosures are made by various companies, right. So, it could be classified into three kind of activities. In addition to CSR, the extent to which they have been able to inculcate these things in their systems and practices and management both, right. Now, we start with CSR activities, see what kind of sustainability initiative have been taken by Indian organizations. It include like they are going to finance these kind of activities, donations, sponsorships, right, for different activities, assisting in disasters relief activities, providing education or creating education hubs or education centers, providing healthcare facilities, creating the infrastructure like making road and these kind of things, okay, cultural conservation by supporting these kind of activities. Okay. They also engage people in livelihood activities, community livelihood activities by training them in certain activities, so that they can earn livelihood, and then they also participate in environmental conservation practices like roping more trees, okay, and making them aware about how to participate in these kind of activities, right. Now, if you look at core banking core business practices, it means that they are trying to move towards green operations. They are try to say that how climate change is going to impact them, okay, and they are going for green supply chain, try to use more renewable energy, they are focusing more on health and safety of the people, okay, and they try to make sure that the workplace is more sustainable in nature. Moving further, if you look at some other things like organization and management, okay. So, they are trying to give awards if you are going to engage in this kind of activities people. You are trying to go for certifications and say audits of the organizations related to say certain ISO systems and practices which are related to the environment, right. They try to develop systems and policies, have code of conduct to the behavior and try to inculcate it in the systems and practices. That many companies have gone for say green operations, right. So, you make it a policy that you are going to have a paperless office, you are going to have green buildings, right. So, it could be a part of the policy and systems, right, and make sure that you are going to follow certain code of conduct related to sustainable practices, okay. And you also communicate with employees and stakeholders that this is your agenda when it comes to sustainable practices, okay. So, many companies have done it, the only thing is that they are spending more on CSR compared to other activities, right. But gradually they are moving from CSR and they are trying to inculcate these kind of things into the systems and practices and making it a part of their management philosophy, right. So, apart from the sustainability initiative by Indian organizations, you will also find or look at shareholders theory in detail and see when we remember we have been talking about shareholders theory and stakeholders theory. Okay. It means that your basic job is profit maximization, which could be a short term perspective. You know that there are, and because of this, you know that there would have been lot of unethical instances, okay, where the companies have been engaged in certain practices and systems, okay, which could not be called socially responsible or ethically responsible, right. You know that the famous example of Enron, right. So, where you try to hide certain things, okay, like you lose losses and debts, okay. WorldCom, that is another example that can be given, okay, where 3.9 billion was wrongly accounted, or Adelphia Communication, okay, who invented 5 lakh subscribers. Similarly, India you also have this example of Satyam, who was, okay, and they have gone for these kind of scandals, okay. So, the basic idea was to make more and more profit by engaging in these kind of activities. Okay. So, what I want to say here is that see, it is not simple to understand this kind of thing unless you are able to see that it in a broader perspective. Okay. So, it is not only that you are going to satisfy the need of the stakeholders who invested the money, but you also need to look at other stakeholders in the process. Okay. Okay. So, and that is why the shareholder theory has been criticized, and that is why we have been talking about stakeholders theory, okay, where you are going to look beyond shareholders, okay, because there could be other stakeholders also in the process. where you are going to see that not the short term perspective that to gaining profit in the short term, but you are going to see that how you are going to sustain this kind of profit in the long term. And it is possible if you are going to inculcate in ethically and socially responsible behavior. Okay. And you are able to satisfy not just the stakeholders, shareholders who have invested money, but other stakeholders in the process, right. And that is where it is very, very important for the HR to look into these issues. Okay. So, the perspective of CSR changes provided the kind of theory that you follow, whether you follow shareholders theory or stakeholders theory. So, if you follow shareholders theory, you are going to spend the minimum that is prescribed by the government. If you follow stakeholders theory, you are going to spend as much as possible. Beyond that 2%, that is minimum prescribed by the government under the Companies Act for the benefit of the people and society. So, if you are going to follow these kind of CSR practices, you know that it has lot of benefits for the organization, right. You are going to have a better image and reputation for yourself as a company. You can attract new customers, customers will be more satisfied, you are going to build long term customer relationship, okay. And the goodwill that you are going to earn from the customers, because the kind of systems and practices you adopt. Okay. It depends upon what you do for community and say society, and they are going to recognize and appreciate this, right. And it also results in high productivity. Government will not interfere, because you are not doing something that is not required or socially and ethically desirable, right. And then you will find the data says that companies who engage in ethical and social practices, okay, they are better financed by these financial institutions. Okay. Because the financial institutions understand that you are not engaging in certain practices, and then tomorrow you are not going to engage in kind of scandals or unethical practices, okay, because of which your organization would be at stake, right. So, it is always beneficial for the organizations from all perspectives you look at it, okay, and then you are not going to be under any kind of legal net, because fines and legal actions may be there if you are not going to follow certain practices, which is basically comes under the regulatory framework. So, your behavior need to be governed under two framework, that is regulatory framework and also under the code of conduct, okay, where you are going to voluntarily follow certain norms and practices, which is good for your organization as such. Okay. Apart from these benefits of CSR for the organization, it is also good for the employees, okay, in terms of creating better trust, okay, attracting new employees, they would be more happy and satisfied, okay, because they know that you are doing something that is good. Okay, you will be able to retain people, okay, and also customers feel that yes, you are going to buy products from companies that can be trusted, right. Because if you take the name of a company, you say, oh, this is a very good company. So, the kind of reputation and brand image that you build is going to attract more and more customers for you, and then you if you are going to create this kind of say trust and goodwill, probably you will be talked about in a very positive way, right, among your colleagues, friends, family, everyone. Apart from these benefits to the employees, society may also can get benefit, because they are going to come with these companies. Okay. You know that lot of NGOs are associated with these organizations, okay, and these NGOs are going to help these organizations to ensure the kind of activity that they should take up, okay, related to the society, community or the environment. Okay. And it also helps in alleviating certain social ills, because you can go for rehabilitation programs, okay, in case of alcohol and these kind of things, or you can develop certain infrastructure, arts, sports, and you can sponsor these kind of events which could be organized by various agencies, and that is where you can play a very important and significant role for the growth and development of the society. You know that sometimes players are being sponsored by the organization. Even the training abroad is being sponsored by many organizations. So, that is how they come and try to help people to improve their quality of life and well-being, right. Moving further, you see that if you adopt a very poor approach, then what happens? Okay. If you are not doing well, if your results are not very encouraging, then there is a possibility, right. This possibility is for everybody, whether it is organization, employee, consumer, the society. Okay. If you look at the organization, you have bad image, bad goodwill, right. customers are not going to buy your product, they will even boycott it, okay, right. And then you have a possibility of going for legal actions against you. Okay. Employees will not be happy and satisfied, they would be less committed, the productivity would be low, right. Consumers may again is not going to be happen, because they think that you are using it as a publicity stunt, that is all, but you are not taking care of the customers. Okay. Similarly, if you are moving, you are not doing something for the society and you are doing something that is not good for the environment, then there could be degradation of the environmental factors. Okay. There could be divide, a breakdown of the cohesiveness of the community, because you are not working for them, right. You are not promoting those things which is required for these kind of activities. So, if you are having a poor approach towards corporate social responsibility, there could be a lot of potential problems that you might face. So, it is better to go for that, and the research suggests that if you have been you have a very positive attitude and approach towards CSR activities, spend a lot of money wisely and to ensure the growth and development, okay, then it always helps the organization in a better way, not only in terms of performance, but you also have all kind of things that we have discussed just now. I mean, in terms of reputation, goodwill, brand image, better customer retention, profit, all kind of things might come up, right. So, we have to see that now what is the role of HRD in the CSR activities. Okay. See, the idea is that you have you are going to invest in CSR activities, but that is also an investment in the people, right. So, if you have surplus resource, a part of your profit if you are going to spend in that way, it is always good for the organization, because you are going to create human capital. For example, if you are going to sponsor a athlete for better training approach, you are going to invest in that person, so that he is going to bring fame for the country. So, it is this investment is always has a good return, right. So, in non HRD literature you will find that it is only restricted to training, but if you look at HRD literature talks about the overall growth and development of the employees, right. And you can also train people and employees that how they can go for CSR activities, which is going to be reflected in different kind of say criteria that we have used to evaluate CSR activities, right. But if you are not being trained and then you do not know what kind of activity should be taken, then you cannot be either pace setters or smart utilizers, right. You will be in the bottom end of both sides, spending as well as your CSR score, right. So, it is very, very important to look at these things. Similarly, in terms of HRD, you know that you have to act as a strategic partner. It means that you need to create values and systems, so that you are able to focus on social justice other than performance improvement. So, when it comes to social justice, you also need to take care of other stakeholders apart from the shareholders of the company. So, you have to see that how you are going to design those activities, how you are going to audit it, how you are going to implement and evaluate these kind of projects. Okay. And now, you know that companies have tried to separate it from the HRD, and they are some progressive companies have separate CSR department entirely devoted to CSR activities. So, that their money is wisely spent and they get better return on these investments that they are going to make in the name of CSR activities, right. So, the major role of the HRD is to create a socially conscious effort on the part of the human resource development, right. So, you need to create an environment that benefits the whole social system, not the organization, and that is where you are going to educate people and organizations about it, and make sure that HR strategy is integrated into social consciousness and into organizational activities, which is basically has a potential to affect significant social changes, not only change in the performance and the behavior, right, and that is it has a very more important role. Then you also act as an advocate for the employees, okay, because if the psychological contract is breached, then there is a problem. Okay. Make sure that you are taking decisions more democratically, involving all the stakeholders in the process, because they are going to be affected. You also teach and promote ethical management and leadership, challenge and improve traditional performance measures to include socially responsible metrics, right. Though ideally it is good to talk about it, but you find that many companies are not doing these kind of things. Okay. Somehow they are trying to spend the minimum prescribed 2% of the profit, and that is by compulsion, it is not even voluntary. So, if you look at the role of the HRD is much beyond ensuring profit for the organization and make sure that all the stakeholders are equally benefited out of it. Thank you very much.